Okay, so it's been 5 years since the original AirTag launched, and a lot has changed. The finding networks are now open. There's like a million third-party trackers flooding the market, and choosing the right one, I just think it's way harder than it used to be. So we grabbed 6 different trackers across 4 different networks, and we've put them all to the test. So get those snacks ready and let's find out which one is actually worth your money in 2026. Okay, so obviously we cannot cover every single tracker out there, so here's what we're working with. From the phone manufacturers, we've got the 29-pound AirTag 1 and the new AirTag 2 from Apple, as well as the 35-pound SmartTag 2 from Samsung. For third-party options, we've got the 15-pound UGREEN and the 5-pound Novo. Yes, only 5 pounds. Both of these support Find My and Android Find Hub, although only one network can be used at the same time. Then we've got the 29-pound Nomad Tracking Card Air, a Find My exclusive from one of the best accessory brands out there. And lastly, the 25-pound Tile Mate. Now, Tile does use their own Find network, and there's also a subscription model starting at £3 a month, so this one's going to be an interesting one to test. Okay, so first off, let's start with the big test, lost item finding. I sent my team out into Manchester city centre with all the tags, plus Ren here, to see which tracker could keep the best tabs on Ren while I monitored everything from the office. And we split this into 3 phases. Phase 1 is a somewhat busy area along the Manchester Canal with residential buildings and pretty decent foot traffic. Then we had phase 2, which is right in the city centre, with loads of crowds, so plenty of phones to ping these trackers. And lastly, we've got phase 3, which is a much quieter phase, just across the canal with barely any buildings, also not a lot of people here, so I'm not expecting many pings here at all. And by the way, my team actually put their phones into this Faraday bag, so they couldn't ping the tags themselves. And all of our coordination was done through this, the 14-pound IMO-4G Mini. This thing is like half the price of a single AirTag, that's crazy. And after a day of just testing these over and over, we finally have the results. Starting with phase 1, we can immediately see just how poor the Android Find network is. There were very few updates, and the location areas were just way too vague. The SmartTag 2 also struggled, there were barely any pings, and also, you had to manually refresh the app to get the location, which was not great. Interesting enough, Tile got a few more updates, around 5 or so, but the UI was equally frustrating as you had to keep on going back and forward just to refresh the page. But the Find My network, this was noticeably superior. And surprisingly, even that 5-pound Novo tracker worked brilliantly. So all 4 Find My tags were definitely the best ones here. Then we moved on to phase 2 in the city center, where they all performed much better as you would expect. Find My was especially good, Samsung updated very frequently and about the same time as the Find My trackers, and then Android Find Hub, it was actually better than before with more updates in similar areas. And Tile was okay, it did ping before we reached central Manchester, but not a lot, so yeah, Tile was not great here. And moving on to phase 3, this is where things got very interesting, because on the quiet canal, almost all the tags still managed to update their location, even with barely anyone around, which was very interesting. Find My and Samsung both pinged at the beginning and the end of the canal, with very little pings in between. Tile only pinged at the start and literally nothing at the end. As for Android Find Hub, that was completely useless, not even kidding, not a single ping during the entire walk. Plus, we also got occasional error messages, and that was on all the trackers using Android Find Hub. So what did we learn from all of this? Well, Android Find Hub's biggest issue is the app and permissions. You see, phones don't actually have it pre-installed, and it's rarely enabled, meaning that the only people actually finding the items are those already using Android Find Hub themselves, which I think is a major problem. Find My by comparison has considerably more active users and just works in the background every single time, with a good number of pings in every phase. And this, by the way, applied to all the Find My trackers, from the 29-pound AirTag right down to the 5-pound Novo. Samsung also did really well throughout the entire journey with frequent updates and good accuracy. It's just that I had to manually refresh that every single time, although the actual tracking performance was roughly on par with Find My. And Tile, it wasn't actually as bad as I expected. It actually showed all the pings at once on the screen, which I did find a bit odd. And keep in mind that this tracking history is a subscription feature, but it did actually get a few pings in every single phase. It was flawed, but not completely useless. I would say the worst part about it was definitely the horrific UI. So long story short, as long as you're using Apple's or Samsung's Find networks, you're actually going to get a very accurate tracking experience. That being said, you've still got a ton of trackers to choose from. So let's compare their features, speakers, batteries, and more. Now, if the item is actually in the same room as you are, you're definitely going to want precision finding. And here, only 3 of our trackers support this, the 2 AirTags and the SmartTag 2, all with an ultra-wideband chip. The AirTag 2 actually is the only one rocking the 2nd gen chip. But honestly, the SmartTag 2 wasn't great here. Its range was quite poor, its directions were quite rare, and even with a perfect line of sight, it only connected at around 80 feet. It even disconnected on us at one point. Plus, it requires a constant internet connection just to search, so yeah, precision finding is not the strength of the Samsung SmartTag 2. The AirTag 1 was surprisingly similar, but with a better UI. The arrows started appearing at around 10 feet, and it connected at about 60 feet. The navigation haptics were quite nice, clearer to see than a SmartTag 2, but the core capabilities, I would say, were quite similar. So what about the AirTag 2? Well, this was by far the best. I'm talking an incredible 300 feet of range with a direct line of sight, and that's with directions too. And even with a direct line of sight, it will still kick in the Find My way earlier than the rest. You also get the same great interface and the same great haptics as the 1st gen AirTag, although I have to say the AirTag 2 will still struggle with certain materials like this concrete car park, for example. On top of that, the AirTag 2 also supports Apple Watch tracking. You will need a Series 9 or newer, and surprisingly, it's not even visible in the interface at first. You have to go into the control center and then enable it from there, so it's just weird, but it does have it. The Tile does have a Bluetooth strength meter, but honestly, the loud built-in speaker, I would say, is just more useful here. And I should also conclude a section by saying that precision finding, I think, is mostly useful for smaller items like keys, which can get lost in all sorts of little gaps. So the AirTag 2 is the winner here by far. When it comes to bigger items like, let's say, luggage, any of them will do the job. As long as you get a ping that, oh, you've left your luggage at a certain airport, you'll obviously know where it is. Now, one of these trackers is UGREEN's new FineTrack duo, who kindly sponsored this video. One of my favorite things about it is definitely its USB-C charging. A full charge gives it up to 12 months of battery life, so no need to buy and replace finicky batteries. Also, this guy has dual system certification with both Find My and Google's Find Hub, which means that you get the same handy notifications if you leave your tracker behind, no matter if you're Team iOS or Team Android. Also, these guys can go anywhere, looped on a keychain, tossed in a backpack, or even on a camera strap, so they are super versatile. Not only that, but its built-in buzzer is super loud too. Oh yeah, and it's way cheaper. You can get 4 FineTrack duos for the price of just 1 AirTag. So check out UGREEN by using the links below. Now, aside from precision finding, you can also use the speaker to locate your stuff. So which tag is the loudest? Well, unsurprisingly, the 5-pound Novo actually comes in last at an underwhelming 49 decibels. The AirTag 1 is the next one with a fair jump to 62, but I would say this is still quite poor. Then the AirTag 2 actually bumps it up to 68 decibels. And because decibels are logarithmic, that's actually about 50% louder than 62 decibels. So Apple's 50% louder claim actually seems accurate. The Nomad Air hits 71 decibels, which feels extremely impressive for a sealed card. That's just insane. And the SmartTag 2 brings in 71 decibels. Also, I do love the customizable tones, but I would think these would work better if they were louder. Then we have the UGREEN FineTrack at 72 decibels, which is enough for most situations. And then the Tile Mate, which is the loudest at 75. So you can definitely hear this over most surroundings. Plus there's also loads of lively tones to pick from, all straight from the Nokia era. Now, I should mention that it's not just loudness that matters here, the pitch is very important too. I actually find the AirTag 2 to sound very loud here in practice, thanks to its high pitch. And speaking of impressive things, Do you guys know that we have over 2,500 wallpapers in our app wallpapers from close to 40 talented creators from all around the world? We offer the highest quality wallpapers out of any app out there, 1x1 full 8K, and we have loads of free designs as well, with no ads either, so check it out by using the link below. Now let's talk design. The AirTag looks really nice with its shiny surfaces, but it won't go on your keys without an accessory. Luckily, Amazon has tons of them, but that is an extra cost that you'll need to factor in. Then the Novo, it mimics the AirTag's shape, but it's actually a bit thicker, so all of those AirTag accessories, they won't actually fit. Then Samsung, UGREEN, and Tile, they all have built-in loops for keyrings, which is just so much more practical out of the box. I also have to say that UGREEN and Tile, they do have a very similar shape, a rounded square with the corner hole. But I gotta say, Samsung's tag is actually my favorite one here. We have this shiny loop, the pill-shaped tracker. It looks very premium and it feels so well made. And I gotta say, the material is also very soft, so it looks excellent in either white or black, at least when it's brand new. It's worth noting that UGREEN, Novo, and Tile, they all offer different form factors too. For example, UGREEN and Tile, they both offer a card-shaped tracker, and also a tiny tracker that's great for sticking to something like a bike. Nomad only makes card-shaped variants, so yeah, there's just loads of shapes from different trackers here, whereas Apple and Samsung, they only make, the one you see. I would say the standard tag shape and the card shape are the best combo, one for keys and larger items, and the other for your wallet. So how long do these things last, and how do you even charge them? Well, the Nomad Air has only 5 months of battery life, but it does charge via wireless charging, so I don't think that's unreasonable to live with, especially since it sits in your wallet, so you can easily just swap it out. The Novo gets a full year from a replaceable CR2032 battery. I don't think that's ideal. You also need to factor the cost of the battery over time, which also applies to the AirTags that also offer over a year with that same replaceable battery. But, the AirTags cost 6 times the price. Then we have the SmartTech 2 that claims 500 days, or about 1.35 years, and they also come with the same replaceable battery. However, the UGREEN FineTrack has 2 years of battery life, and it's also got USB-C charging. Long battery life and rechargeable, I think that's the perfect combo here. Although the Endurance King is actually the Tile Mate, which claims 3 years from its replaceable battery. Tile must have seriously streamlined their power consumption, or that claim is a bit ambitious. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously, battery life will vary depending on how much data your tag is sending out. We don't have years to test these, so we're going off the manufacturer's claims here. Regardless, the UGREEN is definitely the best one overall for battery. It's got good endurance and it's got USB-C charging. So after all of this testing, which tracker should you guys get? Well, the AirTag 2 is the best all-arounder here. Its lost item tracking is one of the best, if not the best here, and its precision tracking is by far the best out of anything we tested. It's not cheap, you'll need to buy accessories, and the battery life is just fine, but it does the job really well. So if you're an iPhone user, this is the one to get. Now, if you're not an iPhone user and you're on Android, then the SmartTech 2 is definitely your best bet. It's really good for lost item tracking. It's pretty cheap on Amazon. You don't need any accessories. The speaker is loud. You can throw it on your keys immediately and you're sorted. So if you got a Samsung phone, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Now, if you care about value, then these dual network trackers are definitely worth a mention. For Find My, they are 100% worth it. However, if you use Android's network, you can forget about them for now. And between the Find My ones, I would say UGREEN is great across the board. It's got really good tracking, great speaker, great design, long battery life, and USB-C charging. However, the Novo is generally impressive for just £5, but essentially limited to just the lost item tracking because of the quiet speaker. So don't expect to ping that because it's very quiet. However, if you just tuck it inside a back pocket, I think it's gonna be fine. It's like better than nothing, right? And Tile, as a tracker, it's actually not too bad. I think its lost item tracking capabilities are actually pretty good. Not the best, but pretty good. Definitely below Samsung and below Apple, but way above Google. Plus, its speaker is very loud, so it almost doesn't even need precision finding. But that subscription is the bummer here, because it definitely makes it by far the most expensive tracker on the list, and you're not really getting anything special for it. So unfortunately for Android users, outside of Samsung, there aren't really any great options right now. But for iPhone users, you can go all in with the AirTag 2, or you can grab the UGREEN tracker if you want 4 trackers for the price of 1 AirTag. or you can pick the Novo if you want to get like tons of them for crazy cheap. If you're interested in any of these trackers, feel free to use the links below. They don't cost you anything extra, but they do help support the channel and all of our testing here. And I'm curious, out of these options, which one would you go for? And how has your experience been with smart trackers up until now? And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more in-depth testing just like this one. I'm Daniel, this is ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next video. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.